I'm Nate Eaton in the East Idaho News.com newsroom speaking with Frank VanderSloot. He is overseas on business. He's joining me now via FaceTime. Frank, this morning you and your wife announced that you're establishing this $500,000 fund for people who have medical debt and have excessive attorney fees. Why did you decide to do this?
Well, Nate, my life has been so blessed. I've been so blessed. My family's been blessed. Belinda and I are in a situation now where we have more resources than we deserve, really. On the other hand, we both grew up in poor families. My family was poor, her family was. We know what it's like not to have resources. And now we find ourselves in a position to help others who don't have the resources to help themselves. And I've long been an advocate and have done many things over the last couple of decades to protect people who didn't have resources. And this is one of those times. I've not done it so publicly as this before, and this time we're announcing it because we need to know who the people are who've been impacted by these folks that are using unbelievably aggressive and, in my opinion, ruthless tactics to collect medical debt. And a big important piece of this is not like somebody didn't go out and decide to buy a new dress and not pay for it, or a television set and not pay for it. These people they didn't choose to get sick or injured and put themselves in a position where they needed a doctor. And doctors are expensive and doctors deserve to be paid. But there's this now program that this one firm has in Idaho Falls. MRS is the name of the company. That takes on collecting for doctors, but it doesn't appear to me to be much about collecting debt for doctors. It appears to me to be it's all about running up attorney fees that they get to take home. These folks ran up a bill on our employee. $294 was for a regular bill. We don't even know what the bill was for, but it was $294, they say, to begin with, but they've tacked on interest and attorney fees. It's the attorney fees, and taken her bill from $294 to over $6,000. And when we got involved, it was only about $1,100, but they had maneuvered it in ways that are unbelievable. They even went back to the court to ask for the court to increase her bill by $100 for attorney fees, and then they charged her something like $400 for increasing her bill. I mean, it's like you're saying, no, this can't happen in America, but it can here in Idaho. And our Idaho laws are so antiquated that they don't protect the consumers, and folks have found a way to use Idaho law to do egregious things to people's lives that, in my opinion, just simply aren't fair. So we're in a position to help out. They seem to depend on or count on or benefit from, at least they benefit when somebody doesn't show up in court because they get a default judgment. So somebody who is unknowing, not necessarily in tune with what's going on here, they got a $200 bill, they don't show up in court, and that's when the attorneys hit them. And then the attorneys ask the court to award attorney fees, and if there's nobody in the courtroom to tell the other side of the story, then the judge issues a default judgment, and the attorneys get basically to have their way with it. And we think that that's dangerous. It's not only inherently wrong, it's dangerous, in my opinion, to society. So we reported this story to East Idaho News, and you guys picked it up. And because we thought it was so strange. We have wages garnished all the time. It's not something I don't hear about that. It's none of my business, in my opinion. I don't want to know. And so I wouldn't normally know, but in this case, the attorneys were acting so bizarrely that our folks told me that this was going on, and I got interested. And sure enough, what we found there we think was inherently wrong. We told our attorney we were going to protect her and pay for her attorney bills. They ran the bill up to $6,000, and then after you guys exposed it and went public with what was going on, they called up her attorneys and said, look, we'll just drop it if you just won't talk about it anymore. I don't blame them for not wanting people to know about it. But Thankfully, she didn't take the bait. She wouldn't be silenced. She didn't have the funds to defend herself, so we helped defend her, and then we thought we'll take this a little further and defend anybody in the community that's being attacked by this, and we think it's at least dozens, and it appears like it might be hundreds of people. If anything we're doing is inaccurate, we want to give them a chance to respond. We want to make sure that the record is accurate. We want to let them, say why they're doing what they're doing, correct the story if we've got any of it wrong.
And I just want to say that you guys gave us the tip, but any other company in East Idaho who would have given us this tip, we would have covered this exactly the same way. This was not a Melaleuca issue. This was an interesting news tip, and we welcome those. Now, some have said, Frank, that this is political on your end, that because Bryan Smith and Bryan Zollinger are involved in politics, you have maybe something against them. What do you say to those people that say this is just all political?
Well, I've heard those comments. I mean, I read them on Facebook, I guess it was, or on your side, I'm not sure which, and I read that. I don't know how that would play out. I don't know what would be political about it. This is about a company that's collecting debt, I think, ruthlessly. We wouldn't even know about it if they hadn't done it, if we hadn't seen it firsthand with our own employee. I think normal politics would mean that you protect the people on your side of the aisle. I think Bryan Zollinger and Bryan Smith both are conservatives. I consider myself a conservative. I suspect I agree with them on most of their positions. I think Bryan Smith might be a little more to what I would call the radical right than I am. But I think on most of the things that he and I would be in sync with in regards to politics. So if politics were played out here like are being played out in our country, if you're a Democrat, then you would support Hillary Clinton no matter what. She could, bleach her computers and destroy 30,000 emails, and if you're a Democrat, that's okay with you. I mean, that's what we see. And then if you're a Republican, it's okay if Donald Trump says things that are totally untrue or attacks a U.S. senator that has now passed away and has served his entire country, was a war hero, talking about John McCain, and look the other way while the president attacks this man after he's dead. I mean, if you're a Republican, you just look the other way if it's on your side. So I guess we're talking with, if politics were to be involved here, talking with somebody on my side of the aisle, if I were playing politics, I would try to cover it up, not expose it. As it relates to the news, and I'm grateful that East Idaho News broke this story, but clearly it's a story that, we're being contacted today. I'm being contacted today with all kinds of news agencies from all over the state, and it looks like one entity that's on the national level. Everybody thinks it's worthy of looking into, and I'm glad they're taking a look.
And not only that, Frank, but Facebook comments alone, hundreds of Facebook comments, people saying they've gone through what you're talking about.
When we first told the East Idaho News about this story, we just thought it was an individual situation that the news ought to be looking into it because it was so unusual, in my opinion, so egregious. We had no idea that it looks like hundreds of people have experienced the same experience with these folks. So yeah, it's bigger. It's much bigger than we had any idea about.
All right. So the people you're looking for are not just people that have medical debt, but people that have these excessive fees, and they can contact you guys, your attorneys, and you'll look into the case. Is that correct?
Yes, we've actually contracted with a firm to protect it's a firm in Boise that's going to, and we'll pay the bills, and these attorneys will interview these folks. They'll keep it confidential. They won't go public with it, but they'll hear their stories, and we're not going to protect people from paying their debts. But if they're being attacked by aggressive attorney bills that are unfair, that's when we're going to step in and say, you this shouldn't happen here. And I think, by the way, I think doctors have a responsibility to know what happens to their patients when they turn, their bills over to be collected by any one particular collection agency. I think doctors should look at the tactics that these firms are using. I think our legislature has some responsibility here, and we hope to get the laws changed to protect the citizens a little better. And it appears to be all about running up the bill so that the attorneys can get rich. That's what it appears to be to me. we'll see when we get a little more light on the topic. Sunlight is a great disinfectant, and we hope to shine some sunlight in on this picture.
Thank you very much. Frank VanderSloot, again, speaking with him. He's overseas for work, and we have a lot more information as well as a link to the website that Frank mentioned. You can click on that down below. And the stories that we reported last week about medical recovery services, we also have those links. Thank you again, Frank. Thank you for watching.